Happy collecting, everybody. Today we're back with another vintage set feature, and we're going to be doing a 19th century non-sports card set today. And there's a lot to cover in this video, so I'm going to try to be as brief as I can. But this 19th century set of tobacco cards is generally considered to be the monster of non-sports cards, almost like the non-sports card version of the T206 baseball card set. There are 622 cards that were featured in this set, and nobody, to my knowledge, has ever put the entire set of 622 of these cards together. The British Museum has the largest collection at 621, but we'll try to get into a little bit more of that maybe at the end if there's still some time. But it's a military series. It features soldiers from around the United States and the world. And it came distinctly in several different series. Now, these series have been broken up by collectors into several. And they've been given sort of alphabetical numbers. And each of these breakdowns is from A to the letter M. And we're just going to kind of go through it. There's one quick distinction to be made. Half the set is found with sort of colors in the background, generally considered to be colored backgrounds, as we can kind of see here. And then the second half of the set generally have sort of plain or white backgrounds. So A through F, those subsets, are in the colored background category. So I'm not going to go too far into each one. I can do a feature of each of the different lettered subsets, but generally they're between 20 and 85 cards apiece, and they are easily broken down and collected in that way. So you can kind of build a collection by focusing on one area, then kind of go into the next. So the colored series, or the colored background series, can be featured, and we're just going to start with Series A. Okay, so these cards you can kind of see are the same subject. And Series A is very distinct in that the front lower left corner has the number 7 there. There's 50 cards in this subset, and the cards in this subset can actually each be found with two separate backs. Either a plain background for the Kinney Tobacco Company. So these are the same people that made Sweet Caporal cigarettes, and that's generally who's advertising here. Or they can be found with this notice back. And if you're, really want to collect them all, you can collect all 50 of the subjects from this Series A with both backs. So I'm going to place these down here. So Series A contains mostly soldiers themselves, but it also contains some state seals, as we can kind of see here. There's the state of Iowa. And also some coat of arms of different countries. So here's Russia, Italy, and that's generally considered to be Series A. And so you can kind of see both different backs on that particular subject. Which brings us to sort of Series B, which is also 50 cards in length. And these ones, instead of having that number 7 on the lower left, have a number 8. So these were made directly after that series. And again, feature really kind of crazy ornate backgrounds. They're really pretty cards. And these ones, the backs feature a checklist, which makes it nice, of 50 different subjects in this series. So a pretty straightforward series here. There's no real major variations or anything. But you can see the 50 different subjects there. And similar in size and look and everything like that as Series A. Which brings us straight into Series C, which you can see has the number 9 down in the lower corner. So you can kind of see all three of these together. 7, 8, and 9. Now, Series B also features mostly just soldiers. But then there are also some different medals from around the world as well, and countries. And then Series C, you can kind of see here, feature mostly soldiers. There's some state seals. And interestingly, there's actually a boat or a ship with some medals, everything like that. So these were made in succession. You can kind of see this one's interesting in that they forgot to add the blue ink to the finished product on this side. Both have, you know, kind of the checklist back. It's having a hard time focusing there. There we go. But kind of an interesting variation there. Which brings us now into Series D, which looks very similar to A through C, but D now has no little number down in the bottom corner. Okay, and actually has just a plain, somewhat generic Kinney Tobacco Company back. Actually very similar to Series A when they had, having a really hard time focusing here, had the notice back and the regular one. So the regular back in Series A and the regular back for Series D are identical. But again, what changes this one to D is just the lack of the little number. So those ones are all kind of collected together. Differences in rarities there. In my opinion, Series A tends to be the toughest of that group or that bunch. But you can kind of see Series D here. These are the Ds. So again, state seals, everything just like we had before. And some medals. Which brings us now into Series E. Series E is a distinct departure in style and everything. And they have this little white box down on the bottom with, I call it the 3-line set. And it has the advertising, the soldier rank, and where they're from, then where they're from. And so this is Series E. Very straightforward set of cards. These are on distinctly thicker card stock. Back is pretty just a generic back there for the Kinney Tobacco Company. And there's another set in the white background that looks very similar to this. But there's actually some all 50 cards in this Series E in a really, really rare version can be found without the ornate back being printed on them. And I only have one example like that. So we have sort of our regular Series E card here, and you can see the exact same card missing all the printing in the background. And this was a distinct different style. There are people that collect these in this way, expect to pay a pretty good premium for the white background version because they do not come up for sale very often. Oftentimes these can be mistaken for Series L cards, which we'll get into later. So I'm going to put these to the side and re-talk about them later. So that brings us to Series F. So first off, here's Series E. So pretty straightforward, kind of crazy backgrounds and everything. And Series F is sort of the catch-all, everything that doesn't kind of work into Series A or A to E. And so there's a couple different little subsets within Series F. Now F, for the most part, there's 18 cards that are called Continental cards. And they feature, you know, for example, here's one right here. Here's the Captain of the Continental Artillery from the 18th century. Okay, so all these guys, these 18 cards in this series here, they are sort of Continental soldiers, captains, you know, that kind of thing. There's one card, this guy here in particular, that can be found, again, similar to Series E, can be found with or without the gold background. And you can see, same exact card here with a white background. And you can see this is actually a distinct different printing because it has, you know, this shade in the background, and that is not present on this other card. So two distinct printings, and this is the only subject that I have seen in that style. Obviously, it's also missing the illustrated Sweet Caporal. Same backs, you know, on those cards. Here's a nicer one of that particular set. U.S. Major General, 1835. Okay, so that's kind of the general idea for that series. So 18 of the 26 subjects in this set are in this Continental Army collection. Then there are 5 decorations, which I don't have any of. They're very, very rare. But then there's also three kind of somewhat legendary rarities within this series that feature what are called Vatican cards. And so here's one of those examples. This one's pretty nice, little flake on the side here. So this is the Noble Guard from Vatican, Rome, and Italy. Now there's only 3 of these subjects that are with the Vatican series, and this is considered to be part of this other series. And I only have the one of the 3, but interestingly, I also have another version of the same card where they forgot to print some of the ink on his face and his pants, the shading, also missing that Vatican, Rome, Italy at the bottom. So only example I've ever seen of this particular subject like that. And the back on these has its own style. And with this set, a lot of times, due to the rarity, you just kind of take the cards how you can find them. You know, if you find one in pretty rough shape, obviously this one's kind of this one that has the ink that's missing. It's got some unfortunate condition issues, but you just take it how you can find it, and if you can upgrade later, great. So that's the Vatican series. So that kind of completes the colored background series, which brings us now into the generally white or plain background sets. Now this is Series G. Now Series G, and these are from G to M, and Series G is a U.S. Army and Navy types, and this is probably, of the bunch, the easiest to complete series. There's only 51, I think, subjects in this series, and easily completable. Some of the more affordable 19th century tobacco cards, because these were produced in the 19th century from the 1880s to the 1890s, probably over a number of years. Now this set generally features soldiers from the U.S. Army and the U.S. Navy dating, to 1886 on the front, so it's all the different styles. And kind of unknown to a lot of people that even collect this set, this series can be found with sort of 2 versions. Okay, we've got our general sort of white background here, but they can also be found with this slight stippling in the background. And you can kind of see, same guy, everything like that, but there's that slight stippling to the background. And if you're a real glutton for punishment and you want to collect all of them, I've never done a study to see if everyone can be found that way. It may be that just a certain number can be found like that. I've never really paid attention. I just pick them up when I see that there's a difference. I collect them like that. Backs are pretty just normal generic backs. But that's Series G, 51 cards of the U.S. Army. And, if we get to the back here, we can also see sort of U.S. Navy cards as well. Those tend to have almost like a yellowish tint to them. But that kind of completes that one. Series H, is similar, probably the second most common series, and not too hard to complete, but it is the largest at 85 different cards. And these ones are, similar to G, Series G, same backs, everything, but they are not they're not dated 1886 like most of the cards from the Series G are, and 85 different subjects from various militias around the United States. And so that's kind of that set. Not the most interesting of sets. So we got a bunch from Massachusetts, and also the what are considered the New York State Militia. And so that's Series H. Now Series I is a much tougher set than anybody gives it credit for. It looks very, very similar to Series H, but these feature foreign military soldiers, and they have distinctly the illustrated Sweet Caporal in 3 lines off to either the right or the left, depending on the picture. And they're pretty easy to distinguish these. Again, just a pretty generic back. There are 60 cards in this set. And again, feature foreign military soldiers and the like. So very, very rare set to complete. Even the most complete sets are generally missing some from Series I. And so here's Series I. We've got Great Britain, Italy. Oh, I guess there are some from the U.S. as well, just some other state militias. But again, they'll always have sort of that illustrated sweet caporal off to the side, either the right or left. And again, you take those as you can find them. Which brings us now to Series J. Now, Series J is by far the rarest of all the series. There's 50 different subjects in this set, and they come in two distinct little subsets within the 50. So there's, of the 50, 31 of them are from England, and they feature English soldiers. And we have a subject here that kind of shows that. So this is the captain of the 2nd Lifeguards in England, 1879. This isn't from 1879, but it's a series just kind of what they looked like at that year. So pretty nice back, just a pretty normal, generic Kinney Tobacco back. Having a really hard time focusing. There we go. So 31 of the subjects can be found like this for England, and that's what we're seeing on these pages here. And various different dates, but generally 1870s is where they're from. But then 19 of the subjects are not from England, but they're from, I believe, the National Guard of the state of New York. And same series, and these, amongst the 19 subjects in this set, these are some of the rarest cards in the series. Some distinctly easier to find than others. We generally have about 9 or 10 of those 19 that are all but impossible to find, so you just kind of find them as you can. But, you know, real stumbling block for those that are trying to collect the set. And I think I passed those back over here. So these are kind of the National Guard of the state of New York. And so I don't want this video to be too long, and I can break down these a little bit more in their different series at another video if there's demand for that. So that brings us to Series K, and Series K has one of the legendary rarities in this set. The Hussar is spelled with 2 Z's, is the one card that's missing from the British Museum set, and that's what would have completed that set for them. And it has a really distinct, different look to it. Now these ones all have almost like a cartoony image of the different subjects here. You know, different style, definitely some different artists were working on this particular series, I believe. And they're all foreign, and they're all dated on the front 1853. They're not from 1853, but that's just kind of a time period where all these soldiers kind of originated from. That was the style of, dress in 1853. But really fun set of cards. Again, there's 49 that are collectible. There are some other rarities within this series, but there's one that's one of the real rarities within this set, and it's found in this particular subset. So again, that is Series K. Now Series L is actually very similar to the Series E that we saw earlier. So this was the Series E with the 3 lines of foreign, non-US soldiers. And again, I said that they, in a rare variation, could be found with no background color. But this series looks very similar, as you can kind of see. And so these ones are all found with the white background, with just a regular plain back. But there's 50 subjects in this set, and 35 of them are found just like this, and 15 can be found with a little bit of sky background. But for the most part, they're in this series, even though they're in the plain background set. And these ones with the sky and stuff in the background are from a mini little subset of 15 cards, and instead of having this sort of horizontal back, they'll have this distinct vertical back. And they're the only ones in the set that have that kind of back. So kind of an interesting little mini group. So that is Series L. And so that kind of completes most of the series. And again, we have, so here's Series L again. That brings us to sort of the last of the sort of mixed subsets. This is sort of the catch-all for the plain background series, and that's Series M. There's only 20 cards in this series, 15 of which feature the French Army from 1886, and they're similar to this. So it's very similar to the Series G cards that we talked about earlier for the U.S. from 1886. And these ones tend to be pretty easy to find too. There's 15 subjects in the French Army, and they make up part of Series M. But in addition to these 15, because there's nowhere else to put them, there are 5 state seals in that set. And here's one of them. And this is the state of Vermont. And these 5 cards are also among the very, very rare cards. And again, this one's pretty messed up. It's got a original collector stamp on the back from the 19th century. So this was Robbie Chase's card back then. And thank you, Robbie. And so these cards, again, you just kind of find them in the collection, in the condition that you can find them. And if you have a chance to upgrade them later, you do so. And I have another one in that series right up here. And this is the state of Ohio. This one has kind of a cool blue border. There's some variations in that, but for the most part, you just kind of find them how you can find them. And again, here's that French Army set. So again, that's sort of the breakdown of the different subsets. Again, there's 622 cards in this series. And again, I've never heard of a completed set of 622. And I believe the British Museum's collection is the most complete of the bunch. But kind of the way that these are generally collected is you just try to find what you can, when you can, and you kind of, one of the big hurdles is getting to the number 500. You try to get to number 500, and it's tough to do, but doable. But with patience, you can kind of get there. And if you're a real crazy man and you want to go for more, over many, many years, you can get up to about 600 different. I think there's only a handful, maybe a dozen or so different collectors in the world that have gotten to that point. But so it's a real, almost like a special class that to get into. And right now, currently, I'm probably 30 or 40 away, from that 600 number. And I'd like to get there at some point, but it's never been a set that I've necessarily gone crazy after. Paid top dollar to get the cards that I need or anything like that. It's one that, as I buy collections, if there's some of these cards in it, I've always just kind of squirreled them away and kept the nicest example for myself. But it's a really fun set to do. Again, it's the monster of the non-sports card world. Very similar to, again, like I said, the T206 baseball card set. You just try to complete it, and it's a slog. You have to kind of complete it piece by piece by piece. But it's fun because there's different subsets, and from A to M, and you can kind of complete one at a time, and you'll kind of bottleneck at a few different series that are a lot tougher. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you guys would like me to feature any more about this, then let me know. Otherwise, be sure to subscribe. I'm going to be doing more vintage card set features. Again, I've got a lot of baseball, other sports. I've got tons of non-sports cards as well. I really enjoy them. And a lot of the baseball card collectors, as they've sort of been priced out of the baseball card world, have really moved into a lot of the non-sports card sets, because as opposed to every card from the 19th century being a $200 to $400 card, like say the Old Judge baseball card series, these cards can be completed and collected, sometimes with like a Series G card, less than $5 a piece, $5 or $10 a piece. And so that makes it a lot more fun, because you can, slowly over time collect a set of almost 600 cards without totally breaking the bank. And so it allows, the set collector in you to really, scratch that itch and enjoy it. But again, be sure to like my videos. I'm going to be doing more features. If you want more non-sports card sets featured, I can certainly do so. I love them. And be sure to push like, and happy collecting, everybody.